जलाल तू आई बलाल को टाल तू जलाल तू आई बला को टाल तू जलाल तू आई बला को
What are you up to, Rishi Kapoor?
Sam, Kunal, this is really serious, okay, do not disturb. In fact, do you have a black hanky or stuff like that?
I will not disclose my personal accessories, but what are you up to, Rishi?
No, what I'm trying to say is, see, the US Grand Prix is jinxed, and I need to remove the jinx. I'm reading out mantras. I'm wanting to do all the auspicious and the inauspicious around it to go away.
So we need to do a Havan is what you're saying.
Hey, Havan karenge. If you're in the Indian subcontinent, you might just understand what I'm saying. If you're not, you're about to understand something in a lot of detail. It's called Formula One. This is called the Inside Line F1 podcast. My name is Rishi Kapoor. Kunal Shah is my co-producer, co-blogger, co-host, and he gets me the dinner. So, hey, he's a nice man. So, Kunai, what I'm trying to say is, USGP is jinxed because first in 2005, when we saw those 6 cars run a Grand Prix, it was just dismal, and then Indianapolis literally disappeared from the calendar. Now the Circuit of the Americas yesterday saw 4 less cars, which was about to be 12 less cars. I mean, it's just not right, it can't happen in US every time.
Yes, I am so glad you are bringing this up. Because at the end of the day, I don't understand why does it happen every time Formula One goes to America.
It's an important market. They've been trying to tap it, open it. But yes, along with the fact that Marussia and Caterham were not around, they were taken over by administration. They went into administration, if I may put it so. Sahara Force India F1 also said we might just boycott the race. Sauber was going to join in, and Lotus was all over the place also.
Yes, I'm going to stick to the first part of your point, which is when you said that it's a very important market. And it's important for our listeners to know that racing in the United States of America is very, very crucial for Formula One.
Yes.
Majority of the brands involved have USA as one of the top 3 markets, if not the top market. We all know that from a sports sponsorship and a sports business point of view, United States of America is a different animal altogether. And for all these years, Formula One has actually survived without the American money. And the best way to get the American money is go racing there, which is why we've had Texas and we're talking to Las Vegas as well.
Okay, but why the boycott? Is that the only way that Formula One teams can be heard? I mean, isn't Formula One intelligent enough that can produce so much downforce to have a little money up force out there?
I'm glad you brought why the boycott. I don't know myself. And there were rumors of a boycott because officially all the teams denied it. But my guess is that they wanted to generate some PR around it. I mean, let's face it, a Caterham and a Marussia going into administration is probably $500 million in each team gone up in smoke, literally.
So who's to blame? Okay, everybody's pointing in this one direction, and the person the fingers are going to has also turned his head and said, okay, this time maybe it might just be my fault.
For the first time, we actually may have somebody accountable. And I say this because for the Russian Grand Prix debacle, if you remember, we were also wondering who can we go and complain to. And this time, it's Bernie Ecclestone who's got up and said, hey, I'm to blame.
Okay, but the system of Formula One was created by Bernie very intelligently because FIA was making all the money. He turned around and said, okay, we're bringing the entertainment, so we should have the rights. And then he started selling the rights to F1. That's how he started becoming Bernie. And well, everybody demanded their share and he gave them a share and he made everybody richer, but he's now making everybody poorer. And this is something very complex to understand.
It's actually very complex. I got lost in what you were saying. And, sadly, there isn't an official communication regarding this either. There isn't an official note which says which team is earning what for finishing first, second, third, fourth. It's extremely muddy. But having said that, yes, Bernie Ecclestone can be put to blame. He himself has turned around and said, hey, I put my hands up. I'm to blame. I work for people who need to make money. There is a lot of money in Formula One. It is just distributed badly. All of which, if you were to see, are very accurate statements, but none of them taking the blame onto himself.
No. What I'm trying to say is he obviously hasn't learned math in school because if he keeps the 40% himself and then distributes the rest of the 60% in order of preference, I'm sorry, sir, but you're just making money for yourself and not for the sport.
Yes, money for himself, and something that he's tried to project very well in Austin is that the big teams are not cooperating. But it is Bernie himself who's gone and done individual deals with each of the teams. Because let's remember that Bernie makes money if the teams don't stay united.
Mm-hmm.
And the teams have never been united. That's how Bernie Ecclestone's role came into play. At best, he's a commissioning agent. He's got all the teams together and he said, hey, you know what? I'm going to get you sponsorship contracts. I'm going to get you broadcast rights. Globally, you take about 12, 15, 17% of your commission. Here, Mr. Ecclestone's making 40% of the commission. So it's a wrong skew in terms of who's making more money. And then the money earned by teams is also distributed unevenly.
Which also results in the fact that teams don't make money. What happens is they at most break even because, well, they end up spending all the money in technology. The bigger teams want to get bigger. They want to win every time. So they don't see any limit to the amount of costing, the productions, the engineers, the designers, etc., etc., etc. So is this going to result in the fact that 2015 is what? About 6-7 teams only?
Possibly, yes. I mean, and let me put it this way, something that's not as well known is the entry list for 2015 closed on the Friday of the Austin Grand Prix, which means that Bernie Ecclestone and the FIA know how many cars will actually be racing next season, and this is why they ask for 3-car teams.
Well, Formula 1 is waiting for that. Fernando Alonso is waiting for that. But the big teams should realize here that they've got the bucks to spend. Some of the teams, the smaller teams, work on the breakfast budget of the big teams. So, well, we need the smaller teams because we need the new drivers to come and showcase talent. And it's a separate battle at the bottom end of the grade, but it is required.
It is, and like Bernie Ecclestone said, and I hope he means it, that we need to tear all the existing contracts, sit down and have a far more fairer distribution of Formula 1's earnings.
Which is also very transparent. What was very, very clear yesterday was the fact that the 2014 cars are up and running at a similar pace to the 2013, in fact, faster. Because, well, the qualifying time was faster. How is that possible with a car with not so many aerodynamics, with not so much power under its belt, just a little bit of more of torque?
And 35% less fuel.
Oh yes.
With the fuel flow meter as well. My guess, and I haven't spoken to any engineer yet, but my guess is the grippier tires.
Yes, very important. I know the humor quotient in this podcast has been not so elaborate, but it was there in the race where Pamela Anderson, I saw her.
She wasn't running down the grid. That's what she should have done.
In a red swimsuit. But yes, I really like her smile. And with a smiling face, she said that she loves the sound of F1.
Really? What sounds are we talking about?
Yeah, because the sound of F1 is over. There's no sound from the engines. There's nothing. Drivers talk back to the engine.
And you know what? Even in the green room, after the race is over, there is no sound between a Lewis Hamilton and a Nico Rosberg.
Oh,
let's talk about the race, Rishi. What do you think?
The only sound of F1 is what Inside Line F1 podcast. Okay.
By the way, the only thing free in Formula 1 is also our listening. Thank you for listening, but please try and pay us next time.
Okay then. You're paying attention right now to the fact that the Austin Grand Prix was a race of two halves. The start, I guess, was a bit dry, except the fact that Perez got some cars to turn and damage Kimi's car. Got Adrian to get out on his best qualifying performance of the season. The highlight of the race for me was the duel between Jenson Button and Fernando Alonso, and two mature, experienced guys going wheel-to-wheel racing. Brilliant. I think, everybody says that Jenson is not aggressive enough. Anybody who's seen the replay from yesterday would know that you cannot not have a Jenson Button on the grid, because I love him. He's a brilliant guy. He's a great racer.
I just hope he has a competitive cockpit next year to show people what he's actually capable of.
But, let's talk about the fact that Rosberg, Hamilton, Rosberg. Yes, Rosberg qualified very well, some brilliant pace. Hamilton got him in the race. But, if I was Rosberg, I would visibly be able to see that how much happier the Mercedes management is when he wins.
Oh, yes. Well, we will not be able to comment much on that.
Yes.
Like you keep saying, the heart says Nico Rosberg, the mind says Lewis Hamilton. But I'm going to bring to you something that you and I discussed. We'll share it with our listeners. Is that, to me, Nico Rosberg seems to have lost out some bit of his pace in the race after the driver radio ban was imposed. I think that was Monza.
Yes, it was Monza where, especially because of Nico Rosberg, a lot of the driver coaching points were thrown out to the media, and then it was discussed. and the result was a mute conversation between the drivers and the engineers, and very limited information can go back to the driver's cockpit. Via
To me, that makes me believe that Nico Rosberg is more reactive a driver. He's able to observe, he's able to read, he's able to adapt and do exactly what is needed and asked of him. Whereas Hamilton is a very active driver. And before the Rosberg and Hamilton fans go to war, which you and I won't, I know that, both driver styles are very much prevalent in today's grid. There are drivers who can read telemetry, go out there and do exactly what the telemetry would need them to do. And there are drivers who are far more intuitive, which is the difference between the two Mercedes drivers.
But if you talk about the PR game, Mercedes per se would want Hamilton to win. A, because they paid him all the money to get him here. B, in terms of a brand perspective, he's a lot more popular than Nico is.
Absolutely.
And even somewhere, I guess Formula One gets a little bigger if Lewis wins.
Yeah, I guess so. I mean, I'm just imagining the PR story, PR headlines. Lewis Hamilton, 2 times World Formula One champion, as opposed to Nico Rosberg wins his first ever World Formula One championship. And to me, given that Formula One is a Eurocentric sport, a Hamilton victory makes more business sense for far too many people.
But let's not discount Nico Rosberg's efforts. He was giving Michael Schumacher a run for his money. Lewis Hamilton considered to be one of the fastest guys on the track right now. If he is giving Lewis a hard time, he must be really, really good.
Yeah, he is behind in the World Championship. He may not win it, we don't know. But he has surely raised his stakes in the 2014 Formula One season.
Going back to the race, Williams could have scored a podium. Ricciardo, brilliant. Williams, too conservative. Vettel, driver, 6 laps of the day.
This is what brings me back to your comment. The second half of the race. Vettel was brilliant. Ricciardo was outstanding. Williams should have actually got a podium with Felipe Massa once again.
But Maldonado made his first points for 2014. Very happy for him. He was looking really competitive. You know, there were a lot of fights between Grosjean and other cars, and Maldonado just came out winning. But he's got a lot of penalties now. He has more penalties than any other driver in the recent years of F1, except for 2013. And the strange thing is, he was one of the first guys to be confirmed for 2015. And the other point being, Marcus Ericsson has gone to Sauber. Well,
who?
Marcus Ericsson. Exactly my point. I believe he looks like Richie Rich. He's got the money and Sauber needs the money so well.
So who do you think is going to be his partner in Sauber?
Well, what Adrian did in qualifying was pretty special. It's contract time. John-Eric Verne was again great. Like I said, Max Verstappen is asked for him as a teammate. I don't know if it's going to happen or not. I would love to see Jeff on the grid. He's really, really good. You know, but a great observation that Kunal had is that if Max does make it to the podium next year, he cannot pop the champagne because in many countries, the legal drinking age is 18 and well.
Well, in that case, he could just gift it to us on the Inside Line F1 podcast.
Oh, maybe below the podium. Throw it.
We'll probably try and crack less jokes on him then.
We'll think about it. Well, up next is one of our favorite tracks, the old school Interlagos, the Sennaes, the Bico de Pato. Oh, that lovely straight. It's a fab track. It's an anti-clockwise track, and it's a track that decides, makes, breaks championships and has the most amount of history. If it rains there, it's havoc. How's it going to be?
I'm just wondering if Felipe Massa would win because
he might win a lot of hearts, but a race, I don't know. It's going to be a Mercedes this time, but...
Really, Rishi, come on, get a little bit more original.
Okay, it's going to be a Mercedes engine.
My pick is, I hope Rosberg wins it because he needs to keep his championship hopes alive. I hope there isn't a retirement because that would be very unfair on either of the drivers.
Yes. And the fact that the double points makes it really interesting. So in a week's time, there'll be the Brazilian Grand Prix and we'll be dissecting it. If you've been really sleepy while watching the US Grand Prix, get some sleep because Brazil is here and it's fast, it's happening, it's going to be happening on the Inside Line F1 podcast.